'cause I belong gone and loaded in the barrel with a fuse 10 miles high. Come on and light me, want me. You have to come and find me by following the shadows of discontent and lightning. Solitary but not lonely, been gathering the forces of the disappointed. Make my own way through the shit phase. Pick up all the pieces scattered around me and go ahead and light me.
I'm David Hollander, and you're listening to Protect Your Assets. Over the last 20 years, I've met many people dissatisfied with the lack of value and personal attention their financial advisor provides them. At Liberty Group, we personalize every aspect of our clients' retirement and financial plan with estate law, wealth management, and tax planning all under one roof. Call today to make the rest of your life the best of your life.
Lorenzo Bonder, and tonight we have Tyler Maxson down in the virtual production trailer controlling all of our cameras and overlays tonight. And Lorenzo, we're back in the States. Of course, we had Road America, Phoenix Raceway in the last 2 rounds, but we're back at another one of these IndyCar road courses that, of course, recently made an IndyCar road course, but famous among everybody in iRacing, of course, for the Rookie Mazda series and more. And as we continue down into round number 9 of the campaign, really anything can happen with Sonoma and Watkins Glen still on the horizon. Those drivers at the front of the points championship want some points out of Laguna Seca so they can add a little bit of a buffer through the break week.
Yeah, especially with the break week coming up next week, and then we have those 2 final weeks coming up where everything can go from out of their grasp. But here's the thing, Laguna Seca, a little bit of a truncated track of sorts, Josh, but it promises a really good race since it is short track, and for these cars, they're perfect for it.
And you can see Nikita Lasickin with only a 9-point gap over Anders Krohn, and Anders looking to try and get a little bit of that back tonight with Matthew Escajeda, the former champion, sitting there in 3rd. With the drop weeks being countered, he also has an opportunity to work his way back up into the points lead. But once again, 2 races tonight and still a lot of time remaining in this championship. Of course, last week in Road America, it was Josh Green and Nikita Lasickin that were able to grab the 2 wins. We'll see if either of them will be able to go back-to-back here at Virtual Laguna Seca. Same format that we've had for the last couple of weeks with 2 races tonight, as opposed to the 7 laps that we saw at Road America. We're back to the normal 12 laps for each of these races. And with about 7.5 minutes remaining in qualifying, first drivers on the track looking to lay down their first flying laps is working his way now through the corkscrew goes Anders Krohn. We'll see what the number 47 can put down for his first lap of the evening. And 1:19.369, and it will count towards his pole position where he currently stands.
Yeah, which is a really good lap in my opinion. Laguna Seca for me is a very underrated track and a hard track for you to get a really good lap, because there are some corners, especially this corner number 3, if you want to call it, or turn number 4, where the car can slide off its rear end as you pick up on the power. And some of the areas you don't think you're gonna get an off track. For example, this area can run up into the sand. If you run up into the sand a little bit, you can get an off track. So very hard lap for you to nail perfectly, especially through this kink as you go up into the into the Bobby Rahal straight, headed towards a corkscrew. It's so easy for you to gain or lose time just in a single corner and not make it up in time.
Back through the corkscrew now as we sit on board still with that number 47 as he works his way through turn 9, the rainy curve, then through turn 10. We'll see what that lap will be for Krohn. Here's Max Butler, who this season got his first career win at Phoenix for this campaign in the first race of the night in round number 7. We'll see if he can get his first road course win here at Road America, getting a little bit upset through that corner, having to navigate the final sector here as Anders Krohn sets an even faster time at the top of the board. 1:18.548 is now the time for the drivers to try and beat. Here's Max Butler speeding his way to the start-finish line. Doesn't look like it's going to be in the realm of an 1:18.5, but it will be a 1:18.630, and that is not going to put him on the board. Looks like an off-track somewhere is going to disqualify that lap time.
Yeah, fortunate to see the lap being disqualified, but then again, it's the risk of this track. You got so many places where you can kind of run on the curbing and you get a little bit of a patch of sand, especially again through the kink. If you get the sand over there, you're immediately going to get an off track and your lap is going to be invalidated, basically thrown to the bin. And again, a track that for these cars, in my opinion, they're perfect because they're not fast like the Indy cars we see around, or the IMSA cars, when they take it around Laguna Seca. This is the perfect car where you have that mix up with downforce with speed, so you can have a little bit of a pack racing, but the technicality is there. You need to know how to get the corners perfectly, avoid the turtle curbings, because if you get a turtle curb, these red curbings, they can launch you to space quite easily.
Staying on board with Joe Butler as he enters Sector 3, going through the corkscrew, and that Ferrari painted livery working wonders as he works his way through turn 9, now at the rainy curve, and we'll see if it's going to be enough to put Joe Butler towards the top of the board. Anders Krohn still sits at the top at a 1:18.548. Look at Max Butler that second time, and Joe Butler is going to drift it through the final corner, and unfortunately not going to be a pole time for him. On board now with Matthew Escajeda, who admittedly, Lorenzo, we haven't seen much from Matthew Escajeda, still winless this season. However, with the drop weeks, climbing his way up the point standings, could be a sleeper pick for the championship.
Could be, you know, with 3 rounds to go and the break week coming up, I think he wants to make up as much ground as he can. But of course, 5th place is not the best of positions you really want to be in right now. You really want to try to get yourself a really good lap as he goes over the sand, and that's pretty much a lap over.
And unfortunate for Escajeda, and we'll see where his results will lie through race 1 and through race 2. Of course, both of the races tonight will be earning points for these drivers, and still with 2 rounds remaining after this, not a lot of time to use those drops. In 6th currently, Matthew Escajeda still sitting in 5th with Anders Krohn at the top of the charts over everybody currently in this field. Loose again through the corkscrew goes the 62 of Dave Anderson in that STP. To be interesting because we have Zach Hudson starting in the back. We have Nikita Lasichkin starting in 4th, which when he starts mid-pack, he makes it exciting by running his way up through the field very quickly.
Yeah, he likes to make that way be a little bit more aggressive, but I think this is one track where I want to say you have to be aggressive. I think you have to wait your timing, but there is a two-way street with this, because if you are aggressive on this, you can pay off pretty much easily by overdriving your car, overshooting your tires, by overheating them, especially with some corners you demand grip after the corkscrew. So you have to be knowledgeable on how to extract the grip out of the car every single lap and then make it work. To
P2 with Max Butler and Nikita, and rounding out the field it will be Zach Hudson starting in P number 7. Joe Butler will start in 8th place on the night, and Dave now they'll go for 1 pace lap around the virtual WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca, and then win in the first race of the night. Since we went to this 2-race format, Lorenzo, it's been Anders Krohn, Max Butler, and then Josh Green who were able to grab the race number 1 wins. Race number 2 is a different story. Anders Krohn has 1 win from Phoenix, but Interlagos and Road America was both Nikita Lasichkin. We've seen that race number 1 normally is the calmer one, everybody trying to figure out maybe a little bit more mistakes throughout race number 1, with everybody trying to figure out just where the limits are of the car and track combo. But race number 2 always seems to have those fireworks that we're always looking for, whether it's the photo finish.
the jump between McGinnis and Josh Green coming into kind of the corner, but I think because you have that very hard braking turn 1 and 2, I don't know, I would say that it's gonna be more calm than usual. I don't think Listachkin is gonna push early on. He might push after the tires are okay, I would say pretty much by lap 3, but it could be wrong. I'm always wrong.
We'll see if you're wrong tonight. Of course, only time is going to tell who's right and who's wrong. And we're about to get started with the first race of the night. The space car hits over to pit road, and it's Anders Krohn in control of the field through the final corner here at Laguna Seca. 11 turns around this track, and we are underway for the first race of the evening. And what a start for Anders Krohn. The 47 is going to get away to a great lead with Max Butler already taking over second. Look at Nikita Lastichkin, a big diving move to the inside. He'll outbrake himself, unfortunately, go up to the outside line. Josh Green goes back into P2. Nikita Lastichkin falls to P3, but the real loser on that first opening corner, Lorenzo, Max Butler, now fighting with brother Joe for P5.
Yeah, I think Max had a little bit of a wiggle outside of turn number 2, which made him lose momentum, and you kind of need the momentum getting out of the car on the reacceleration. That's why he dropped 3 spots right now, nearly dropping 4 for his brother, as Nick Leo is in front of him as they go up the bridge, under the bridge, and now into the into the Bobby Rahal straight.
Ooh, and getting a little bit loose there was Nicholas Leo, and he is going to fall way down the order now from 4th down into 7th. He's going to fight with Escajeda to try and hold on to P6 as they enter the corkscrew for the first time. Down the hill to the right they go, and way outside goes Escajeda, but it's going to work for him going into the left-hander of turn number 9, rainy curve, and one call.
Oh, is that Nikita?
Nikita Lastichkin. Lastichkin is off track at turn number 9. Doesn't look like any damage for the number 9 machine, but he's going to fall all the way down to the tail end of the field. What has happened for the Russian racing driver through turn 9?
Ooh.
Just lost the car, Lorenzo.
Yeah, the traditional tires are cold on lap number 1, and the car gets a little bit loose on that left-hand side, which is I want to say slightly banked. It's kind of like banked inwards into the track, and that's why the car just lost control on the rear end.
Unfortunate for Nikita Lastichkin, but we know Nikita is going to work his way up through the field very quickly if he gets the opportunity to. 9.2 seconds back from the race lead. We'll see how quickly that 9 seconds is going to turn to a battle for the lead. Will it be 5 laps? Will it take all the 11 laps that are left in this race? Every time we've seen Nikita Lastichkin go to the back of the field, he has found his way back up to the front. And remember, still at large is the invert going into the final race of the night, race number 2. We will invert the entire field. So as of right now, Lastichkin would be starting P2, and loose into the corkscrew goes Zach Hudson. He'll fall now to P8.
Yeah.
Lastichkin goes through for 7th.
Yeah, I honestly thought that Hudson was going to have a crash at the back of Nick Leo, so good avoiding action of sorts from not Wade Michael, but Zach Hudson right there, as he spins around and manages to bring it back on track quite safely. Good rejoin.
Continuing on now is Lastichkin, who sits in P7. Now I set on Dave Anderson as Anders Krohn.
If there were talks in the Butler household about their incident they had at Road America and how they actually move forward going to Laguna Seca, knowing both brothers are battling for a podium spot right now.
I remember in that post-race interview, they did say it was going to make for a bit of an awkward family dinner in the Butler household. We'll have to hopefully we get one of them in the post-race show after race number 2 is done, and we are able to ask about that awkward family engagement that they had to attend. But still racing for this lead is Krohn and Green with 7 laps to go here from the virtual WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca, as the Butlers continue to swap spots. No changes at the front as Josh Green sits tucked in that back wing of Anders Krohn and is not able to make a move past him just yet, but we'll see if Josh Green can continue his race 1 winning ways. Nobody has gone back-to-back in race number 1s so far this season. Nobody's gone back-to-backs in race 2 either this season, so a lot on the line here at Laguna Seca as Green is going to step to the right side. Is it going to be enough to pick that nose in just ever so slightly as they go through the bottom of the corkscrew at 8A through rainy curve? Won't be enough to stay side by side, and Green's gonna have to tuck back in.
Yeah, nice attempt from Green to go over the corkscrew to try to make that overtake, especially on the second leg, but the good awareness to back out in time, avoid a possible crash, and then try to fight it on the straight. I think the straight is probably arguably the main overtaking passing point. You can even try to do that on the outside. You might need a little bit of a run. Can he do that on the outside now?
Side by side and almost making contact is the 47 and the 2 machine. Very, very close, but we're halfway through race number 1. Still can go either way. Of the drivers currently racing at the front, Krone versus Green continues as it has since the drop of the green flag. Both of these drivers starting in first and second respectively on the grid. So Green is familiar with fighting at the front, and he's trying to get by Krone. All that he can do, they'll race their way through turn 6 and down the Rahal straight. Will it be another move to the right side going into the corkscrew for Josh Green in the 2? They're gonna go side by side again, almost banging wheels.
Oh no!
Wheels, and Green is around at the top of the corkscrew. The number 2 machine is stuck and beached in the sand, and so unfortunate that it led to a little bit of contact, and around goes second place. Put Joe Butler to second, Max Butler to third, and that is race number 1 win for Josh Green. Kiss goodbye.
Yeah, it's goodbye for Josh Green, and he tows it back to the pits. We're going to look on the replay what has happened between Josh Green and Anders Krone. You can see Josh Green just on the outside kind of pinched Krone in going into the curb, but they were side by side, and the overlap, I think, just caught Krone by surprise, and then the contact between tires was made. And the unfortunate thing about the corkscrew is that you can get yourself beached pretty much easily on that outside part of the turn.
And you can see now the 2 Butler brothers fighting for second places. That gap between first and second just went from about 0.2 to 13 seconds at the front of this field. So best battle on the racetrack now is going to be this battle for second, as this is race number 1 now is Anders Krone's to lose. But look who's back up to 4th. Exactly where he began this race is Nikita Lastichkin. And onto the sand goes Joe Butler, very loose. He's going to swap positions with Max, not going to let Nikita Lastichkin by. The 9 car is not going to get close enough to battle either of the Butlers yet. He's going to watch it from the rear view mirror.
Oh my God, no.
Butlers, and they crash into each other again at the top of the corkscrew. And now Lastichkin's going to say thank you very much as the brotherly rivalry continues as Lastichkin goes to 3rd.
Well, we can get a second question of, is the second dinner of the family is going to be even weirder than the actual one, as both of them go into the box right now.
So the Butlers both are going to enter into the pit lane. With Nikita Lastichkin to second place. Nicholas Leo now sitting in 5th is going to work his way past the 4th and 3rd place drivers to the podium. Matthew Escajeda now in 4th, and Dave Anderson assumes 5th. Zach Hudson assumes 6th. As now 3 drivers sit in the pits: Josh Green, Max Butler, and Joe Butler. Very quick exit for Joe Butler as he's going to enter back onto the racetrack. It looks like he missed his pit box, didn't even stop in the pit lane. We'll see if Joe's going to work his way back into the pit lane, but Max Butler taking a quick fast repair. And towing his way back to the pit lane at this stage is Josh Green. That tow is still not done. He'll grab his fast repair once it is, as Leo and Escajeda now battle. Escajeda trying to go around the outside the long way through turn 5. Didn't exactly work to his advantage, or will, as he powers through that straightaway. Leo falls back to 4th.
And guess who's back in second place here, Josh? Nikita Lastochkin, and 9 laps, going from last place after the lap 1 incident all the way back into P2, and we have our battle for the championship once again. I know Anders Krone is going to get top points, but Nikita Lastochkin, I would say that's the best case scenario for damage control for him.
So you can see this 4-car battle now, and this is the 4 last cars left on the racetrack. Escajeda, Leo, Anderson, and Hudson. Krone and Lastichkin sitting 1st and 2nd are well away from this group. Krone more than Lastichkin, who Krone is about 22 seconds, or 23 seconds, I should say, removed from this group. Lastichkin only about 7 removed from this group. But continuing to fight on this racetrack is this group of 4, as it looks like trying to pull away a little bit more more is Escajeda, and he was able to kind of break away from this group by about 1.6 seconds now as Nicholas Leo defends from Dave Anderson. Anderson's going to get a little bit aggressive. He'll try and go the long way around at turn 5. Won't work to his advantage as it did for Escajeda last time by, and with 3 to go, Anderson's now going to look to the inside of turn 6, going onto the Rahal straight through the fast left-hander. Contact made, and they collide for a moment. Neither of them end up off track, but that gives Zach Hudson a 2-for-1 special, up to 4th for the number 3.
Nice 2-for-1 special for Zach Hudson. Is go back into P number 3. The thing is, can he hold the aggression out of Dave Anderson, Nick Leo in the remaining 2 laps? Because now what happens? It becomes a little bit of a draft battle here, Josh. So here's the thing: if Dave Anderson gets about 2-3 tenths of a second, you get a small run into the pits, not into the pits, but into turn number 1. You can kind of make a little bit of a dive. You can make a little bit more aggressive than usual. So Zach Hudson is not going to be in a position that he's going to like for the remaining 2 laps, depending on the gap that he's going to create or not.
Focusing on Zach Hudson, who now sits in 4th with a little bit of room between himself and Escajeda, who broke away from this group and has admittedly pulled away from this group at a pretty rapid pace. With 2 to go, he'll sit in 3rd currently. Nikita Lasichkin sits in 2nd. Anders Krohn, well removed from anybody in this race. He sits in the race lead. And there's a great look at that number 47, who is about to take the white flag as he works his way through the final corner here at virtual Laguna Seca. Back onto the front straightaway he goes, and it'll be white flag in the air for race number 1 as Anders Krohn crosses the start-finish line.
And no drama whatsoever for Anders. I think the only moment that he had was with Josh Green, of course. So review Penny to see if that was a race incident or not. But then Anders just to try to gives me a heart attack on the exit of turn number 2. But a solid win for him, and for the championship, that is really good. You know, you take basically 5 points minimum from Nikita Lasichkin going to race number 2, even though you're going to be behind him going to race number 2. So the aggression from the Nordic driver needs to be a little bit more aggressive than usual if he wants to make it out on top again on race 2.
Through the corkscrew, or through, I should say, the turn number 6 for the last time here in race number 1. Now we'll work his way up to the corkscrew. What a race for Anders Krohn, who has gone to victory lane 3 times this season, 2 times on ovals, once on a road course, and he is going to grab that 2nd road course win here in race number 1, 4th on the season, and he'll tie his championship rival Nikita Lasichkin in win count as he works his way through turn 11 here at virtual WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca and crosses the line. Anders Krohn wins race number 1 of the evening. Through the corkscrew for Dave Anderson as he is able to hold back from Nicholas Leo. Zach Hudson able to pull away in P4. Lasichkin's going to come across the line for 2nd place, with Matthew Escajeda grabbing a podium finish here in race number 1. It's Hudson and Anderson who are going to round out your top 5. Nicholas Leo, unfortunately, not going to have anything for the driver in front to grab another top 5 here in race number 1. It's Krohn, Lasichkin, Escajeda, Hudson, and Anderson who will walk away with top 5 positions here in the opening race of the evening. Let's take a look at those full race results. As grabbing the win, it was Anders Krohn. Nikita Lasichkin will finish in 2nd place. Matthew Escajeda in 3rd. Zach Hudson 4th. Dave Anderson rounding out your top 5. Nicholas Leo with Max Butler, Joe Butler, and Josh Green rounding out the 9 drivers who took the green flag here in race number 1, with a full field invert on the horizon for race number 2. It will be Josh Green who will start at the top of the field. As we get ready for race number 2, we would like to thank all of the sponsors once again for helping put on Real Racers Virtual Club live on RaceSpotTV. Starting with Liberty Group. At Liberty Group LLC, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always wanted. Our team of professionals can help you create a well-thought-out strategy using a variety of investments and insurance products and services to help you address your financial needs and concerns. We also would like to thank the Stephen Wilson Racing Academy. They exist to assist clients on their motorsport journey. SWRA utilizes 20 plus years in the sport with advanced coaching techniques, track and car knowledge, and widespread international industry connections to help clients progress to any level imaginable. Whether the client is new to driving on track or an experienced amateur racer, we help our clients develop driving skills that enable them to climb through the Ferrari Challenge ranks, win races in Ferrari Challenge, advance to competing in Pro-Am racing, and one day possibly iconic races such as the Daytona 24-hour or the Le Mans 24-hour. We also would like to thank Coforce for their support of the Real Racers Virtual Club.
Coforce is a digital media marketing agency specializing in the world of motorsports. Working in a variety of racing series in North America, Coforce offers a full range of services, from video production and targeted branding campaigns to event planning and special projects. For more information, visit www.coforce.com or find them at a race event near you.
Welcome back to RaceSpotTV's coverage of Real Racers Virtual Club, live from virtual Laguna Seca. Joshua Lee here with you again, alongside Lorenzo Bonder with Tyler Maxson down in the virtual production trailer. About halfway through this 5-minute break in between the two races tonight. And Lorenzo, it was admittedly a bit of an uneventful race number one. Field kind of spread out pretty quickly, especially after a couple of incidents that plagued both the Butler brothers and Josh Green, who will be starting in the top 3 spots for race number 2. Do you think we're going to see a little bit more action here in this second race? Because, of course, Nikita Lasichkin finishing in second, and our race number 1 winner, Anders Krohn, will be starting at the tail of the field.
Yeah, I think the one thing we can take away from race number 2 is that there might be some separation that from Josh Green to the Butler brothers at the very beginning, maybe a second he might be able to open. It's all depending on the driver, of course, and how they head into turn number 1. But I think the fact that you have a field that I think on paper might be on equal grounds on some of the points, we might see some more aggressive racing. For example, whenever Anders Krohn and Lestotchkin come from the back and start to reach where Zach Hudson or where Escajeda and the Butler brothers might be. Well, Butler brothers just behind it, but where Escajeda, Zach Hudson might be, and how feisty are going to be both of those guys in front. And race number 2 will be regarding to Lestotchkin and Krohn.
So as we finish up this warm-up here in about a minute, we'll get the grid for race number 2, and we will get underway for this second race of the night. Since we've gone to this format, it has been Nikita Lasichkin and Anders Krohn that have been the only 2 drivers to walk away with wins in race number 2. We'll see if that breaks tonight, or if it'll be Anders Krohn going 2 for 2. Nobody has been able to do that so far this season in this format. We'll see if anybody's able to do it tonight. But as we enter race number 2, Lorenzo, do you think it'll be Lasichkin and Krohn fighting their way up to the front and battling for the race win, or do you think we'll see Josh Green or one of the Butler brothers go to victory lane?
It depends on how the gap is going to be on turn number 1, because we saw that Josh made no mistakes whatsoever in the race, right? He was basically perfect aside from the incident that he had that was race ending for him. So it all comes down to how the gap is between first and second going to outside of lap number 1, and then where is Lestotchkin and Krohn at the end of lap number 1 and how fast they can climb within the 12 laps.
Ready to go racing in race number 2 as the 5-minute warm-up finishes its way down, and we'll get ready to take a look at that starting grid for race number 2 on the evening. A full field invert of the results from race number 1 form this starting grid. And as they take to the grid, we'll take a look at the full running order to begin things of race number 2. Josh Green with a 9th place finish in race number 1. We'll start on the pole with Joe Butler to his outside. Max Butler and Nicholas Leo are going to share row 2. Dave Anderson and Zach Hudson are going to share 5th and 6th. Matthew Escajeda will start in P7 with Nikita Lasichkin in P8. Anders Krohn will round out the field. He is your race number 1 winner. They'll have to fight all the way from the tail end of the field to walk away with a win in race number 2. But as we get ready to send them off on the pace lap, Josh Green back onto the pole, and of course Lorenzo showed amazing speed fighting Anders Krohn. Just a little bit of contact into the corkscrew led to Josh Green ending up at the tail end of the field. I think the question that we need to be asking is, how much more contact are we going to see in this second race? We saw both major bouts of contact with Butler and Green. Of course, completely different incidents, but the two Butlers and Green getting into incidents at the top of the corkscrew. Do you think it's going to be an action zone that we're going to see more contact in here in race number 2, or do you think they're starting to figure out how to really race each other going into that top section?
I believe it might be the same as number 1. What happened to Josh Green, though? I just saw him drop back of several spots, but anyway, it's going to be an interesting race in my point of view, because you do have not the level of the drivers, but you have drivers' pace so spread out around the track they kind of can mix up, and the attrition can be all-time high whenever the race starts. But there were some rules that were implemented in this race coming from the Road America round, where it was a little bit polarizing for drivers. You cannot weave on the straights anymore. You can only move one time and go back into the braking zone, and that's it. And if you do that multiple weaving, go for the swerving that we saw in Road America, you get a warning, and if you do that again, it's a drive-through. And if it is a last lap, you're gonna have to be given. You have to give the spot back to someone. You are forced to it, otherwise you get penalized.
So we saw Josh Green go to the back, and it was not a penalty that he was given. He was given an EOL penalty, but word for word, this is what happened in the iRacing text chat. Anders Krohn asked, Josh, do you want to take an EOL? He said, yeah, sure, please. And then Anders Krohn said, tremendous. And then the race control gave Josh Green an EOL penalty. So it looked to me like both Anders Krohn wanted to battle with Josh Green, and Josh Green wanted a battle with Anders Krohn and Nikita Lasickin. So now the fastest 3 drivers of the season, arguably, are now at the tail end of the field here. The Butler brothers are on the front row, and the shenanigans continue into race number 2. But if this isn't a recipe for one of the most exciting races we have seen of the year, I don't know what is. As the iRacing official pace car pulls into the pit lane, the Butler brothers in control of the field. The 5 of Joe Butler on the outside, Max Butler on the inside heading into turn number 1. Green flag is in the air, and Lasickin, Green, and Krohn are going to fight from the last 3 spots on the grid to try and walk away with the top 3 spots. And already looking towards the middle 3 wide is Anders Krohn. He almost hits with Matthew Escajeda, but goes to the outside looking for spots. Lasickin and Green follow. They send Zach Hudson all the way back to 9th.
Yeah, and Escajeda, I think, lost a little bit of momentum outside turn number 2 and made Krohn to check up a little bit. And you can see there's a little bit of a separation between Max and Joe Butler, but not enough for Butler to be, one of the Butler brothers to be actually cool with it. And you can see Lasickin on the inside making it 3 wide. Can he make it 2 wide and then get away with it?
Lasickin fighting through the field. He's already up to 5th. Josh Green up to 6th. They sent Escajeda and Hudson back to 7th and 8th. Dave Anderson, after a pit lane start, is now in 9th. Lasickin goes wide, touches the sand, and here comes Josh Green into P5 on the racetrack. Beautiful move for that 2 machine to go back to the top 5 as the Butlers are going to fight for the race lead. Max Butler to the inside of Joe Butler, and Max is going to take the lead, put the number 6 up to the point with Nicholas Leo and Anders Krohn now in tow. Krohn trying to go to the outside in the final corner of the 69. He's going to outbrake him and clear him before they get to the apex. Up and into the podium places again goes Anders Krohn. 6 spots gained on the start.
Jeez, and look at Josh Green now far behind from Nick Leo. So Nick Leo might give the spot to Josh Green going on over the braking, and there goes the number 2, goes to 4th place, and the Broadly battle is still going on.
fighting but for that race lead, but I think Anders Krohn is going to want to ruin it here. He'll go to the inside, take second spot away from Joe Butler. Now gonna have Max Butler in front of him. Joe goes way wide. Now Josh Green will work his way into the podium places. Here comes Krohn trying to make a diving move to the inside through the left-hander. Did not work. Lastочkin now trying to get by Joe Butler. He's gonna keep battling him as Lastочkin not able to get by the 5 machine and trying to cover off that spot as they go through turn 6 was Joe Butler, but now Max Butler's in trouble as here comes Anders Krohn to the top of the corkscrew. Krohn to the lead. Into second goes Josh Green, and the same battle we saw in race number 1 is going to continue in race number 2. Krohn and Green at the front of the field.
Yeah, and good awareness from Max Butler to try not to fight this over too much on the corkscrew, because I think since Zanotti's the pass on the corkscrew, I haven't seen 2 cars going side by side, and you see Lastочkin checking up on behind Joe Butler. Is going to use the draft, even though there's a little bit of a chain going on, sharing draft. Lastочkin might have the upper hand going into the braking zone.
Lastочkin on the inside of Joe Butler, and that is going to be P4 taken away for the number 9 machine. The Ferrari number 5 going to move his way back into P5 on the racetrack, but this is the exact place that we saw Josh Green in race number 1, and way off track goes Max Butler, and into the wall and into the pit lane goes the number 6. That was a harsh move over to the left for Max Butler in the 6, Lorenzo. I'm wondering if that was a bit of hardware issues for the 6, because it just looked like he turned straight to the left on the straightaway. We'll see if we can grab that replay, but a very, very out of the ordinary incident for the 6 there. It looks like he might have gotten a bit loose and made contact with that wall as the battle for the lead continues at the front. Josh Green in hot pursuit of Anders Krohn as we take a look at the replay of what happened to Butler.
Now let's take a look what happened to Max. It's weird for me. It doesn't look like there's a hardware failure. I think it might be just, if it is hardware, it might be pedal related than steering related, because the car just doesn't decide to pick up the grip outside of turn number 3. It's an odd incident for me to look at.
To the outside for the race lead goes Josh Green, as covering that spot off will be Anders Krohn. Now back to the inside goes Green, not going to be able to take that move down into that right-hander. He'll have to settle for that second spot at the moment. But Lastочkin now sitting in third, has a bit of gap to make up, about a 1-second gap between himself and Josh Green. But if anybody can make up a gap, it is Nikita Lastочkin. We'll see how this battle is going to change, if it'll be this 2-car battle we saw in race number 1 before the contact happened, or if it'll be a 3-car battle with Lastочkin soon to join. We'll see how difficult it's going to be for Lastочkin to close in on that gap to Josh Green, but as they enter the corkscrew, Krohn still leads, with Green trying to catch up all that he can, but it's a little bit difficult to pass here, Lorenzo, especially if you're on just about equal footing, and these drivers are on about as equal footing as you can get. Last time by a 1:19.1 for Green, 1:19.4 for Anders Krohn.
Yeah, for you to overtake on the corkscrew, you either have to be Italian or have bucket loads of courage and a commitment for you to make that overtake, because it is really hard. The car is not meant, the turn is not meant to go too wide at all over the corkscrew, so you kind of have to time it to perfection. So I think that's what Josh is trying to avoid, you know, getting what happened to him on the race number 1, getting to an incident and then beach himself on the outside portion of the first leg of the corkscrew, and then lose a possible win just like that. And the thing is, if Lastочkin, in my opinion, wants to close the gap and be closer to the top 2, I think he needs Josh Green to be aggressive either on turn number 1 or something like that, and they can go side by side, and then Lastочkin might be able to get about 3 to 4 tenths of a second on just one lap.
Already 4 laps completed as the battle for the lead continues in the corkscrew. Josh Green took a dive trying to get by Anders Krohn, was unable to do it. He'll go back to a 2/10 gap as we focus on the battle for 4th. Joe Butler sitting in P4. Matthew Escajeda sits in 5th. A big move to the inside for Matthew Escajeda. Almost pushes him off the track. He will push him a little bit off the track, but Matthew Escajeda moves up a place into P4, moves Joe Butler back and into P5 as the battle for the lead heading to turn number 1 is only going to heat up. Anders Krohn is going to force Josh Green the long way round as back into turn number 1 with this battle for P4. Escajeda is going to go away wide. Joe Butler now to the inside of that corner in P number 5. Back through the first sector here as Escajeda is going to hold on to P4 as the battle for the lead has now added a 3rd car, Lorenzo. Nikita Lastichkin has joined that fight. It's only going to get more intense from here as Green gets it ever so close to getting by Anders Krohn for the lead. Into the corkscrew this time, we could see another pass.
Yeah, we could see another pass being made right here. Let's see of what Josh Green is going to be doing right here as Krohn might be covered the inside. Josh on the outside nearly outbreaks himself into the corkscrew. Josh goes back, but like I said, I think when he tried to make the overtake on the previous lap, that's what brought Lastochkin in. And I said, if you overcommit into an overtake into a corner that you might lose several seconds and you might go side by side, you bring immediately Lastochkin into the fray and make it a 3-car battle in Laguna Seca is a little bit unnerving. I can tell you that. It's not really good, especially if you're the guy in the middle.
That battle for first lives on. Lastichkin still a little bit removed from this battle as we go over halfway done with race number 2. But Krohn at the front still leads the way. Battle for 4th heats up as to the outside goes Joe Butler trying to get by Escajeda again. Won't work as Escajeda is going to pull out the defense, putting the block on Joe Butler as that gap will now remain at about 2/10. Remember, Matthew Escajeda, the reigning champion of the Real Racers Virtual Club in the past season. With the drop weeks, he is back up to 3rd in the championship, very close to making waves in this championship fight. A 4th place finish, or if we see some contact at the front, maybe even a 3rd or 2nd place finish. It's going to do wonders for Escajeda and the points this season.
Especially given the fact that he's battling for the 3rd spot in the championship so far with Max Butler. So we know Max Butler is out of the fray right now. So Joe is trying to fight for his brother, trying to minimize the damage. Of course, we have to count the drop weeks that both Max Butler, and Matthew Escajeda have. But so far, around race number 1, it was a dream come true for Escajeda. Of course, he wanted to win to try to extend the gap, but that first race was some like of a best case scenario if you really want to distance yourself in the point standings to get third place with 2 races to go after this.
This 3-car battle still is alive and well with 5 laps to go. We'll grab a look at a quick replay. This is the battle between Joe Butler and Matthew Escajeda, and it's unfortunately gone the way of Escajeda by now about 2.6 seconds after that mistake from Joe Butler through the final corner here at Laguna Seca. That has now moved Joe Butler still in P5, but now 2.8, now 9 seconds, 2.9 seconds removed from Matthew Escajeda in 4th. Back to the focus on this battle for the race lead, as currently in the lead it's Anders Krohn, winner of race number 1, trying to be the only driver this season to win 2 races in a single night. Josh Green was close in Road America, had contact with Robert McGinnis in Canada Corner on the final lap, and was unfortunately able to lose that race. Now he's fighting for a race number 2 win, but Anders Krohn trying to be the only driver this season to win 2 races in a single night. They are close to making contact off the final corner as Josh Green now going to lose a bit of momentum. He's got that slipstream as they race to turn number 1. It is 4 laps to go, and it is all bets off. Green tries to take a look to the bottom, but the block comes in from Anders Krohn. Beautiful defense from the 47 as the Norwegian is going to keep Josh Green at bay.
And the Norwegian making a really stout defense going to turn number 1, not allowing to have the gap for Josh Green to try to go inside, make it a side-by-side, and then force Krone to the outside, and maybe the number 2 gets the lead position out of the 47. And Lastotchkin in a similar position to what happened to Road America at the last race. You know, the only difference is that you have him again is instead of Anders Krone, and just like that, in a sequence of final turns, Lastotchkin grabbed the race to win. But what will happen over here, we still don't know. Lot of race left.
Josh Green, the driver out of Mount Kisco, New York, trying to walk away with his 3rd race win of this campaign after a bit of time off through the middle of the season. Of course, winning the first race of the Indy Pro 2000 calendar in the real world at the streets of St. Petersburg, looking to win again in the virtual world here at Real Racers Virtual Club. These 3 drivers that are battling for this race win are the 3 drivers who have won the last 3 races of the campaign. Green, Lastotchkin, and Krone, as Green looks to the outside with 3 to go, can't make the move happen in turn 1.
And time is running out. I'm wondering if Lastotchkin wants to look aggressive or try to play the same card he tried to play at the Road America race. Let the other drivers decide their fates, duel for their fates, and then maybe grab something out of the scraps and maybe grab the win, because it looks like we're going to be headed to a very feisty final 2 laps of this race, with undecidedness looming around who's going to win this one or who the podium spot's going to be.
In hot pursuit is Green as they go to the top of the corkscrew. What's going to happen? Doesn't look like anything will as they race off. Anders Krone doing a fantastic job to stay in the lead of this race. He's going to make Josh Green work for this win, and it looks to me, Lorenzo, like Nikita Lastotchkin might be sensing a little bit of energy that he sensed in Road America. He's backing himself off, maybe thinking these top 2 are going to take each other out racing for this win, and it'll be another from 3rd to 1st in one corner for Nikita Lastotchkin to win 2 race 2s in a row as Green tries to take a look to the outside again and 1.
Yeah, tries to go for the over and under, and let's see if Green is going to have the room. He does go into the red curbing, and it makes a little bit of a mistake, the 47, but locks it inside and doesn't let the number 2 go in. And who comes? Nikita just comes in, dashing around the circuit and, well, probably looking to make a move.
Into the sand just for a moment goes Lastotchkin as it is now 3 cars strong for the race lead, and Green is going to outbrake himself, and again a mistake sends Green around and into the sand. This time he doesn't get stuck, he'll assume P3, but now battling for the race win is Lastotchkin and Krone, the 2 main protagonists of this championship battle in Season 3 of Real Racers Virtual Club. Can Lastotchkin get the race win away from Anders Krone? Here's the mistake from Green, Lorenzo. Looks like he had to brake more because of Anders Krone slowing in front of him. Gets too much on the brakes and into the sand he goes.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if the speed difference and the movement of Krone caught Josh Green by surprise. As we're going to open up the final lap. This is going to be a really good one, Josh. Nikita definitely needs to go in the charge right now because he needs to make up the points that he lost on race number 1. He cannot stay comfortable with P number 2 here and maybe see Krone make a stand to try to get the leadership position out of the number 9 driver.
1 to go, final lap, 3/10 the gap between these 2. Onto the red curbing goes Nikita Lastotchkin, keeps the car under him, but now back to 4/10 the gap for the race win. Can he get by Anders Krone? Lastotchkin, winner of race number 2 at Road America. Anders Krone, winner of race number 1 tonight. Can Lastotchkin get by the Norwegian at the front of the field through turn 6 and out of the Rahal straight for the final time? Anders Krone looking to do what nobody has done since we began this format 3 rounds ago and go 2 for 2 in a single night. Lastotchkin will get closer to the corkscrew. Lastotchkin makes a mistake as he comes out of turn 8A, and it's mistakes from both of the drivers fighting this man as he goes through turn number 10 and through turn 11 at the final corner, winning 2 races in a single night. The first driver to do it, 5 total wins on the season, and now a championship favorite, Anders Krone, wins at Laguna Seca.
Wow. Wow, what a mistake from Lasickin going into the final turn. He's going to finish second place, looks like it, as Josh Green is going to manage to get third place. Matthew Escajeda looks fourth, and we're seeing some other drivers finish around the track. An eventful mistake for Lasickin going into the corkscrew, Josh. I fully expected him to be a little bit more conservative around the corkscrew and maybe save for a last turn overtake, because you can go a little bit aggressive over there. But now the championship again is wide open. Once again, maybe a point difference separates both of them at the end of the day.
Anders Krone 2 for 2 tonight. An amazing job by the Norwegian in the number 47. So Nikita Lasickin will finish in second. Josh Green, Matthew Escajeda, and Joe Butler rounding out the top 5. Nicholas Leo with Dave Anderson, Zach Hudson, and Max Butler are going to round out the 9 drivers that took the green flag tonight. And we enter the post-race show after 2 races tonight. It is Anders Krone who walks away with the race win, and he is now with us here in the virtual broadcast booth. And Anders, welcome back again, because it has been such a great season for you in the championship battle. Now 2 more race wins. You went from 3 to 5 in a single night. Talk about the emotions you're feeling behind the wheel tonight.
Yeah, that was hectic. I have to say that entire night was kind of made in qualifying, because Josh was definitely significantly quicker than me, and you know, I was able to put together a slightly cleaner lap, I guess, in qualifying, and you know, luckily Laguna Seca is extremely difficult to pass at, because if there were any major draft zones, I think he would probably you know, pass and pull away. So yeah, I fought as hard as I possibly could, and it got a little too close for comfort there, but obviously really glad to walk away with 2 wins.
Yeah, the only driver now this season to walk away with 2 wins in a single night, with only a handful of rounds now left to make that 2 rounds left at Sonoma and Watkins Glen. Where's your confidence level at going into those last 2 rounds, that you can grab at least maybe a couple more wins or ride this momentum wave all the way to the championship?
Yeah. I mean, it's too early to say. I think if Josh shows up again, you know, obviously he's just so quick every single track we go to. So, you know, he's definitely going to be the favorite, I would say, just on pace. Nikita, though, has stepped up his game big time. So it's yeah, it's going to be closely fought, that's for sure.
Congratulations on both of your wins tonight, Anders. Thank you for joining us once again here in the virtual broadcast booth.
All right, thanks so much. Have a good one.
Over to the second place finisher in race number 2 tonight, Nikita Lasickin, that's joined by Lorenzo Bonder.
So Nikita, congratulations on the P2 right there. I know you didn't want a P2 at the race number 2. That eventful mistake on the corkscrew might have dampened your plans a little bit, but the battle for the lead is still going strong as far as we probably wanted.
Yeah, it was a good couple of races. I made some mistakes, and just this track is so hard to follow another car through the corners, and all things considered, quite happy that I got 2 second place finishes, but I think the points are going to be pretty tight now.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really tight. With the final 2 races of the season now, after the break we're gonna have next week, what do you think you need to do to keep Anders Krone away from the points and make sure you stand at the top at the end of the day?
Probably put some practice and just be more prepared for the race.
Right on, Nikita. Well, we'll enjoy the break, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the second to last round.
Thank you very much, guys.
Now joining us here in the broadcast booth for the post-race show is Matthew Escajeda, who had a 4th place finish in race number 2, a 3rd place finish in race number 1. And Matthew, we were talking a little bit earlier in pre-race about you're kind of the sleeper pick now for the championship to go back-to-back. You're working your way up into P3. Do you think this momentum wave is coming now for you, that you can at least hold a candle to Anders Krone and Nikita Lasickin with their leads at the championship?
Yeah, I think as long as I keep it clean and they keep doing what they're doing, you know, you never know. But I ended up finishing pretty well on the 2 races, but because I really enjoy this track, I'm really fast at it for some reason, and thought I would do a little bit better. But the guys in front of me are just, I mean, they're pros. They're just too good for me today.
And speaking of that momentum wave, we're going to Sonoma and then back to Watkins Glen with a different configuration. What are your thoughts on those tracks? Do you think you can at least get a little bit more speed at either one of those to try and work your way up to the front and grab another podium, or maybe that first race win of the year for you?
Yeah, I think my best shot is Sonoma. I'm pretty quick at that track too. I think I finished on the podium last time I was there. Well, second to last time I was there, and it's my home track too, so pretty familiar there. Watkins Glen, I'm decent at. I don't know what configuration it is, but I think I should be at least decently quick there. So yeah, I think I have an outside chance.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here on the post-race show on RaceSpotTV, Matthew. Congratulations on your 4th and 3rd place tonight.
All right, thank you guys.
And to round out the post-race show, standing by with our Lorenzo Bonder, it's Joe Butler, who, honestly, Lorenzo, had a bit of an eventful night with his brother.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him that, Josh. Joe, talk us through that incident again. You said last race, you probably the meeting probably would have been a little bit of a weird meeting. What about now? Does that increase a little bit?
Well, yeah, it definitely increases. Yeah, he knew that he was going to struggle in this track, and I took advantage of it, and then I messed up my braking point. So it's definitely going to be a weird dinner, like an even weirder dinner this time.
I can imagine the meeting around the dinner meeting around the Butler household. What 2 races to go? If there's a track you could pick up, and we're coming back to Glen, of course. Which of the 2 tracks would you say you prefer going to try to finish strong this season?
Well, it's a good question. I've raced at Watkins Glen with the Indy Pro, but I haven't raced Sonoma, and I like both of those tracks equally, but I think that I have a better shot at Watkins Glen because Sonoma is hilly, so much elevation change. I'm going to lose the rear almost guaranteed on the first lap of Sonoma, so I'm going to say Watkins Glen is something I'm looking forward to.
All right, let's go with something that might be in your house. You probably know how to race. Joe, again, congratulations on the race. I hope the dinner on the break is not the weirdest one eventfully, but enjoy your break.
Thank you, guys.
Great to talk with Anders Krohn, Nikita Lasichkin, Matthew Escajeda, and Joe Butler here in the post-race show. But now, Lorenzo, we put the better part of 9 rounds into the rear-view mirror with rounds 10 and 11 on the horizon at the Sonoma Raceway and Watkins Glen. What are your expectations? Because now I think we're definitely seeing Anders Krohn and Nikita Lasichkin just furthering themselves and solidifying themselves as the championship favorites. But with great finishes from Escajeda tonight, we could see him try and be the spoiler in the championship if either of those drivers drop out at Sonoma or Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think Escajeda still needs to be a factor in this championship. Of course, a long shot, but with 2 races that have so many different dynamics, especially Sonoma, which kind of looks like to be a Laguna Seca of sorts because he had so many elevation changes. It makes the racing interesting, and of course it is shorter in terms of straights and things like that, but it's a race that demands, again, precision just like Laguna Seca, so it can go either way. Yeah. I wouldn't say Nikita and Anders are out of the woods just yet.
And we hope to see you when we go racing. We are off on March the 15th in 1 week's time, so join us 2 weeks from now on March 22nd for round number 10 of the campaign. And then we'll be back again on March 29th for the final 11th round of this season. But we thank you for joining us tonight here on RaceSpotTV for Real Racers Virtual Club. For Tyler Maxson down in the virtual production trailer, for Lorenzo Bonder, my co-host, myself, Joshua Lee, we thank you for joining us here on RaceSpotTV. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we go racing from virtual Sonoma. But for now, we're saying good night from virtual Laguna Seca.